you all please be upstanding for His Worship the Mayor?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I welcome you all to full council, and I now hand over to Carys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just remind everybody, as usual, that these proceedings are being recorded and will be broadcast on the website. So can everybody please be sure that they speak using their microphone. If you need to speak, can you indicate to us so that we can then ask for the Mayor to call you, and then you can speak through your microphone, and that will apply if you are moving or seconding a motion, so that you can speak and be recorded. Can I also ask that all members turn off their mobile phones, because that interferes with the sound? And can I also remind people sitting in the public gallery that by sitting in the public gallery you are giving an implied consent to your image being broadcast. Thank you.
So we go to item 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Apologies have been received from Councillor Ray Thomas and Councillor Kate Moran.
Item number 2, declarations of interest.
Item 25. I'd like to declare my interest in the Bluebird application there. I have got dispensation. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if I need to leave. I won't be speaking on the matter, but do you want me to leave as well?
I think that's a matter for you, but it is a matter relating to finances. So your dispensation, I think, is only where matters don't relate to finances.
I declare interest on item 25.
What's the nature of the interest, Councillor McCarthy?
It's not necessary for you to declare an interest as the ward councillor. You're still entitled to vote on that. Yes.
If there are no other declarations of interest, we'll go on to the open session and item 3, minutes of previous meetings. Minutes of meeting Thursday, 3rd of September 2015 of licensing committee.
I move minutes, Mr. Mayor.
I'll now put it to the vote.
Councillor Alan Jones, Councillor Tom Lewis.
And that's carried. We go on to item 4, minutes of meeting Friday, 4th September 2015 of Standards Committee.
Can I move the minutes as one of 2 councillors who was there, Mr. Mayor?
Any second? I'll now put it to the vote. And that's been carried. We go on to item 5, minutes of meeting Monday, 7th of September 2015 of scrutiny, learning and layskip.
Move, Mr. Mayor.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, we put it to the vote. And that's been carried. Item 6, minutes of meeting Tuesday 8th of September 2015 of Scrutiny Social Services.
Can I move, Mr Mayor?
Seeing it's been moved and seconded, I'll put it to the vote. And that's been passed. Item 7, minutes of meeting Wednesday 9th of September 2015 of Scrutiny, Governance, Performance, Business Change and Corporate Services.
Can I move, Mr Mayor? Second, Mr Mayor.
Put it to the vote. And that's been passed. Item 8, minutes of meeting Wednesday 9th of September 2015 of Cabinet.
Yes, move, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Put it to the vote. And that's been carried. Item 9, minutes of meeting Wednesday 9th of September 2015 of Full Council.
Yes, move, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
We'll put that to the vote. And that's carried. Item 10, minutes of meeting Monday 14th September 2015 of Scrutiny, Neighbourhood Services and Public Protection.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Put it to the vote. And that's been carried. Item 11, minutes of meeting Tuesday 15th of September 2015 of Scrutiny, Governance, Performance, Business Change and Corporate Services.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Put it to the vote. And that's been carried. Item 12, minutes of meeting Wednesday 16th September 2015 of Licensing Committee.
I move the minutes, Mr Mayor.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Put it to the vote. And that's been carried. Item 13, minutes of meeting Wednesday 16th September 2015 of Licensing Committee.
I move the minutes, Mr.
I shall second the minutes. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I'll put it to the vote. And that's been carried. Item 14, minutes of meeting Wednesday 16th September of Cabinet.
Yes, move, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
And that's been carried. Item 15, minutes of meeting Wednesday 16th September 2015 of Planning, Regulatory and Licensing Committee.
I move the minutes, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Can we put it to the vote, please? Thank you, that's carried. Item 16, minutes of meeting Monday 21st September 2015 of Audit Committee.
I move, Mr Mayor.
I second, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. We put it to the vote. And that's been carried. Item 17, minutes of meeting Tuesday 22nd September 2015. Scrutiny, regeneration, planning and countryside.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. We'll put that to the vote. And that's been carried. Item 18, minutes of meeting Wednesday 23rd September 2015 of Cabinet.
Yes, move, Mr Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. We'll put that to the vote. And that's carried. Item 19, minutes of meeting Wednesday 23rd September 2015 of Full Council.
Yes, happy to move, Mr Mayor.
Happy to second, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Put it to the vote. And that's been carried. We go on to notice of motion at item 20, Trade Union Bill 2015. To consider a notice of motion from Councillor Brendan Toomey, the leader, and Councillor Phil Williams, deputy leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, members will be acutely aware of the Conservative Government's Trades Union Bill, which was published on the 15th of July this year. Reforms contained within the bill include thresholds for industrial action ballots, industrial action notices and the length of ballot mandates, picketing and the contribution to political funds from trade union members. The bill also contains provisions enabling legislation to be made limiting facility time for trade union officials in the public sector. Mr Mayor, I have no doubt whatsoever that all members of this council will be familiar with the detail of the bill, so therefore I don't intend going any further into the detail other than to say that the proposals contained within the bill are a direct attack on the trade union movement, a direct attack on democracy, a direct attack on hard-working people, and a further direct attack on local government staff, and gross hypocrisy from a government that was elected by 24% of the electorate. Mr Mayor, moving on to the notice of motion, I move that, given the punitive and undemocratic nature of the Trade Union Bill 2015, Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council wholeheartedly opposes the bill in its entirety. The Council urges the Conservative Government to abandon the Trade Union Bill 2015 and to work in partnership with the trade union movement to achieve a fairer society.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, the Trade Union Bill 2015 will severely restrict working people's ability to defend their jobs and pay and to campaign for a fairer society. The proposals include such punitive actions as workers who go on strike and take part in a picket line are threatened with ASBOs. Agency staff could be brought in to cover long-term skilled workers if they go on strike. Can you imagine what this means when a worker's skills can mean life or death to the public, and then you see agency staff being drafted in to cover them on strike? Mr Mayor, the Government's Trade Union Bill is unfair, unnecessary and undemocratic. It will put Britain beyond the normal expectations of international law and standards. I have no doubt that the bill will undermine constructive employment relations and civil liberties and have a serious effect on this authority's relationships with its workforce. Whilst inevitably we have our disagreements with the trades unions from time to time, in general this Council has good industrial relations which have enabled us to work together to resolve many issues between us. I therefore have no hesitation in seconding the notice of motion, and I hope all members here tonight will support it. in order that our Chief Executive can write to the Government expressing Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council's total opposition to the bill and urging that the Conservative Government abandons the trade union bill.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Any comments? Councillor Richard Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it very brief. In all honesty, there are 4 words in the motion which strike to the heart of all this, which are the 4 final words where we achieve a fairer society. And on that basis, I offer my full support to this motion, because anything that achieves a fairer society is good in my view.
Any more comments? I'll put it to the vote. And that's been carried. We go on to item 21, notice of question. A472 Viaduct, to receive a notice of question from Councillor Richard Thomas, Leader of the Opposition. I believe the Leader's going to take this. Or do you want to read it out, Councillor Thomas? As it's been published, it doesn't count. Well, when I say doesn't count, you're only trying to get me in trouble. It doesn't have to be read out.
Well, you may be happy, but you might not be happy by the time I finish it. Mr. Mayor, I am extremely grateful to the Leader of the Opposition for raising this particular question. The issue of the Fiddler's Elbow Bridge has been subject to much speculation in recent months. For completeness in terms of complexity of work, I've asked for a full response from the engineering department, and that's what I'll be presenting to Council this evening. I've also emailed all members of Council with an electronic copy for future reference, because I'm sure, despite the fact that the bridge is in the south of the borough, members up the north end of the borough, myself included, have been asked questions about this over many months. Mr. Mayor, as a cross-border structure, the Fiddler's Elbow Viaduct is jointly owned by Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council and Rhondda Cynon County Borough Council. Within this arrangement, Merthyr Tydfil has the sole responsibility for carrying out the requisite inspections, but the cost of any repair works is shared equally between both authorities. As everyone is aware, some of the 8 expansion joints within the bridge deck started to show signs of failure back in February 2014. Initial meetings between engineering staff from both authorities, information reports were prepared to brief members of the issues and the estimated costs of the replacement, which at that time was thought to be in the order of some £1 million. This estimate was based on information received from the German company responsible for the manufacture of the original joints. The latest estimate, including all design, accommodation work, which is traffic management, and supervision cost, is in the region of £1.9 million. And this will be split equally between Merthyr and RCT councils. Further meetings between engineers from both authorities to discuss options resulted in Rhondda Cynon commissioning Capita Glamorgan to investigate replacing the joints with a potentially cheaper alternative. Whilst it was evident that some of the joints had or were about to fail, the precise nature of the failure was unclear. In order to establish the mechanism of failure, a CCTV survey of the joints was completed over August bank holiday weekend of 2014. This operation enabled the engineering team to gauge the effectiveness of the traffic diversions that were expected to be used during the main contract, when the bridge was likely to be closed to some of the traffic for up to 5 months. As a result of this dry run, a meeting was held with Welsh Government's trunk road managers to discuss the potential impact that the works were going to have on the A470. This meeting concluded that in order to minimise the impact on the heavily trafficked trunk road, it would be preferable to prioritise traffic moving west-east across the viaduct, i.e. all traffic leaving the A470 would be unaffected by the works. This decision resulted in Capita receiving a further commission to undertake a feasibility report and subsequently a detailed assessment of the impact of diverting eastbound traffic over the westbound deck and the potential impacts of diverting all westbound traffic throughout the duration of the works. The subsequent road safety audit of this option highlighted potential issues at the junction from the A4054 onto the existing A470 slip road south of Tydfil, which is near Abercynnar, you know, the property. It was anticipated that traffic heading south would attempt to turn right to join the A470 at this point, resulting in delays and potential collisions. This again resulted in Capita being asked to look at options to enable southbound traffic to be able to turn safely and to enable the majority of light vehicles to join the A470 at the earliest opportunity. Other provisions will be provided for heavy goods vehicles. All of this complex yet vital preparatory work was undertaken by Capita as neither RCT nor Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Councils had the necessary resources or capacity to deal with this in-house. This was done concurrently with the preparation of the contract documentation, BAT and ecological surveys, noise surveys and subsequent reports associated with each. Because of the complexity of the scheme, the tender period, which is programmed to commence at the end of this month, will allow a 6-week opportunity for their return. Given that we will be approaching the Christmas break, a further 2 to 3 weeks has been programmed for their assessment with a view to appointing a contractor sometime early in January. The manufacturers of the replacement joints, and there are 2 potential suppliers, have indicated that the lead time from confirmation of the order to delivery on site will be a minimum of 3 months, which means that if ordered mid-January, the joints are unlikely to arrive on site until mid-April. It is anticipated that the installation works will take a further 4 to 5 months. The traffic diversions for westbound vehicles will inevitably increase traffic flows along the A4054, and it's anticipated that this will have a significant impact on the villages between Fiddler's Elbow Roundabout and Pentrabach. In order to minimise the level of disruption, there is a consensus within the engineering team that if necessary, it would be preferable to delay the start of the work by a further month in order to ensure that we take full advantage of reduced traffic flows that occur towards the end of the summer term and throughout the summer holidays. This will also allow the works to be undertaken during a period of maximum daylight and hopefully dry weather. And that's the reply, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Supplementary question, Councillor Thomas?
I did have one, Mr. Mayor, but having listened to the complexity and the length of the answer, I'm actually quite pleased that I raised the issue because, as you might expect, living where I do, I get a lot of complaints about what people have variously described as launch ramps for space and speed ramps. It's very disappointing, obviously, at the end of the county borough that this is going to go on so long, but I'm extremely grateful to the leader and officers for the complexity and the length of the answer, and I look forward to reading it at home in bed tonight, which will probably send me off to sleep. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 22, timekeeping and attendance policy, to consider a report of the Chief Executive, and I believe it's Councillor Williams taking this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before I go into the report, page 69, paragraph 3.2, that should read trade unions, not just one trade union, but all trade unions. The summary report is quite nicely set out, and it tells you exactly why the report is being presented. The recommendation is that the updated timekeeping and attendance policy be approved with immediate effect. Subject to questions and comments, I move.
I'm happy to second, Mr. Mayor.
Questions? Comments? Put it to the vote then, please. And that's been carried. We move on to report number 23, hot work policy, to consider a report of the Chief Executive, and again it's Councillor Phil Williams.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. By the way, there was another typo on the previous one, which I will take up at least as direct. This one is the hot work policy. The summary is in paragraph 1.1 to 1.3. Recommendation is that the hot work policy be approved with immediate effect. Subject to questions and comments, I move.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Any comments? I'll put it to the vote. And that's unanimous. We'll move on to item number 24. It's the employees' expenses policy, and to consider a report of the Chief Executive. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Summarised on page 101, what the report's all about. This actually is a policy, the proper title of which is Employees' Expenses Policy and Guidance. And it is, as it says, for employees. We have asked it, perhaps one could be produced to members so that we know what we're doing as well. But that's by the by. The recommendation is 2.1 that we approve with immediate effect the policy. I move.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Any comments? Can we vote, please? Alan? You haven't voted on this one yet? Thanks, Alan. And that's been carried. We now go to item 25, BIFA Profit Sharing Scheme, to consider a report of the Corporate Director, and I believe it's the lead taking this one.
Yes, I'll be very brief, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to move that the allocation of £250 as set out in the report be agreed.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Any comments? We'll take the vote, please. And that's unanimous. Can we get Alan back in, please? Thank you. We'll go on to item 26, Annual Performance Report 2014 to 15, to consider a report of the Corporate Director, People and Performance. I believe it's Councillor Phil Williams.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The summary is on page 125, and I would highlight paragraph 1.2, which sets out that the overall position for the delivery of the priority areas in the corporate plan is adequate, and that means that's where strengths outweigh areas for improvement. An evaluation has been carried out, and we've got a provisional score of 9, which equates to a full payment for part 1 of the outcome agreement grant, and Merthyr Tydfil, sorry, Clive, was ranked equally 11th with 10 national strategic indicators in the top quarter of the local authorities in Wales. That shows the performance level of this authority. Congratulations to all the officers and staff for delivering such a wonderful performance. I'm sure we can do better and will be doing better. And just to advise members that I think it's being translated currently into Welsh and will be published in the next few weeks. Recommendation is that the annual performance report be approved, and if it is, I can then get it published. I move.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? I'll put it to the vote. And that's carried. Item number 27, corporate safeguarding policy, to consider a report of the Chief Officer, Social Services. I believe it's Councillor Matthews to take this one.
I'm voting before I say anything. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Earlier this year, the Cabinet received a report from the Wales Audit Office which made clear recommendations about safeguarding. These 8 recommendations have been fully responded to by officers, and a report detailing the responses was presented to Cabinet earlier today. Recommendation 2 states that all councils should ensure that there is a corporate-wide policy on safeguarding covering all council services to provide a clear strategic direction and clear lines of accountability across the council. This report details the policy which has been developed in response to the recommendation and also proposes the establishment of a safeguarding reference group. The policy has been developed in conjunction with colleagues on the Cwmtaf safeguarding boards to ensure that it is fully compliant with legislative requirements and local authority procedures. Under 4, you will see, why do we have a safeguarding policy? This is answered in the policy itself in Appendix 1, 1.1, for the protection and safeguarding of children and adults at risk. We've all heard of child sexual exploitation cases in Rotherham and the recent Operation Jasmine, where people in care homes weren't treated properly. These things are not things that happen somewhere else. They can happen absolutely anywhere to any of our children and any of our elderly relatives and vulnerable people. And please note in 1.4, the policy relates to all councillors, staff, volunteers and providers who carry out work on behalf of the council. I must stress that safeguarding is not just about children or the elderly in our care homes, but relates to every vulnerable resident of our borough who looks to us for protection. Under 6 of Appendix 1, Roles and Responsibilities, 6.1 states that every individual has the duty to report concerns of abuse and neglect. 7 of the policy establishes a safeguarding reference group. This group will identify procedures required and review performance information, providing an annual report. Subject to questions and comments, I move the recommendation in 2.1 that the corporate safeguarding policy be implemented with immediate effect, and 2.2, the work of the proposed safeguarding reference group be supported. I'd also like to inform members that in the second week of November is actually Safeguarding Week. There is an article going out in the next Contact magazine, and we're doing everything we can to publicise the Council's commitment to safeguarding and also information for the public so they know what to do if they have any concerns about any person.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Questions? Councillor Mitten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just ask firstly that the service area on the first page says social services, however reference is made to a corporate safeguarding policy. The reason I ask that is there going to be an appendice to this policy that covers education per se? And where I'm coming from is it refers to legislation and latest legislative updates. However, there isn't any reference in this policy to the latest Terrorism Act, and I know with my work through Estin that Ofsted and Estin now ask all educators of post-11 education to ensure that we are informing children about anti-radicalisation and the Terrorism Act, and we all have a duty of care now because there's a new risk register under the prevent rules. So I just wanted to check if there is going to be an appendice to this, or will our safeguarding reference group now monitor this as we become more aware of that?
Councillor Toomey, do you want to say?
Thanks for raising that. And the RAP training under the Counter-Terrorist Act is very important, not just to schools but across the council. There is a training requirement, and I do anticipate that the reference group that we're establishing is council-wide. That's why it's a corporate policy. That there will be representation from education with links to schools, and it will be able to look at the requirements under that act and the training and awareness raising.
Any further questions? Any comments? Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we would all be very wise if we were not to imagine that this sort of activity against children or any vulnerable people couldn't happen or doesn't happen in Merthyr Tydfil. And so therefore I'm delighted to support this corporate safeguarding policy, because it takes us a step closer at least to identifying and protecting vulnerable people. Can I just point out a couple of typos on the first page, please? Under 1.1, it's not the Welsh Audit Office, it's the Wales Audit Office, and that appears under 3.1 as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right, thank you very much. I'll now put this to the vote. And that's been passed. We move on to other items. To deal with any urgent business or correspondence from myself, I have none. And 29, to receive communications from His Worship the Mayor. Can I just say, I'm pleased to see Councillor Gareth Jones back here tonight, and I hope he's feeling better. And the same goes for Councillor Harvey Jones after his recent passing out. Yes, you frightened a few people around there, Harvey. But that's all I have tonight, and thank you and good night. Sorry, Councillor Jones.
Well, I'm not speaking for Harvey, but could I thank everybody for their good wishes. Nice to be back amongst the land of the living.